like to thank everyone for coming to our webinar, Unlock and Govern Your Business Value of Your Company with SAP Data Services. Our speaker today is Chuck Sheridan. He's our Director of Enterprise Information Management in the Center of Excellence for Utopia Solutions and Labs. And with that, I am going to hand the webinar off to Chuck.
Perfect. Thank you, Lisa, and hopefully everybody can hear me well today. I'm going to spend a few minutes today talking about business value of achieving company value from data services. As Lisa said, my name is Chuck Sheridan. I'm Director of our Enterprise Information Management Group at Utopia. I've been in information management about 25 years. I've been working with the SAP products for probably just about 8 years. So we'll stay kind of high level today. At a future time, if you want to have a more private session or a deep dive, I'm happy to do that. I often joke I can go hours in each of these different topics, so we're going to stay fairly high level today. I'm going to give you a quick introduction on Utopia, a little bit about the company, what we do and our focus. Then I'll jump right into the topic. Today's focus on the information management will be primarily on data services. I'll cover a couple of capabilities and features of data services. And I also will wrap up with a little bit of a case study of kind of extending the functionality of the product as well. A little bit about Utopia. Utopia is a services company. We really focus on, and like I say, we focus on data and everything around data. That includes enterprise asset management, big data, transformations, migrations, data cleansing, and data enrichment, just to name a few. Most of our work is with SAP and their solutions across the board as an SAP partner. Our headquarters is in Chicago. I'm talking to you today from stormy Pittsburgh, so hopefully we don't lose my power. And we have offices around the world. So this is a slide that kind of shows you the enterprise data lifecycle management. And as we look at kind of the 4 pillars of capabilities, and these are a sampling of our clients across each of these pillars. So if you really look at this matrix, our focus is usually in either data migration, data strategy, EAM or enterprise asset management, MRO. We also do master data management, content management. But if you look at these 4 pillars, really what we're going to talk about today is data services and information management and how we use that SAP solution set in really all 4 of these major pillars. So you can't say that we use one more than the other. Certainly we use data services a lot in migration. We do definitely use it in data strategy, EAM, and master data management as well. So of these 4 pillars, you're going to see how we use those solutions across all these capabilities. Now I'll get into some of the overview of the enterprise information management solutions from SAP, some of their purpose and features, and then again we'll get into more detail on data services specifically. This is a slide that I've borrowed from SAP and from ASUG that really talks about the explosion of data, right? So Utopia is a data company. You know, we're positioned to look at this explosion. It's a risk. It's also an opportunity. I believe Gartner says that there's going to be a 650% increase in this type of data over the coming years. So if you look between 2011 and 2016 in the future, the explosion of this data is going to make achieving business value from that more and more difficult. If you're not positioned to handle that explosion of the data, or even the amount of data that you have available today, you run into with the common garbage in, garbage out, lack of transparency, poor business decisions, etc. As a result. So this is a very generic kind of overview that, again, I borrowed that talks about where data services, information steward, master data governance fit in a generic scenario. So you have, here we have a couple scenarios, but you have all kind of different information coming in legacy application, new data creation, again, getting into that information explosion, whether they move into SAP or non-SAP applications, whether they're moving into master data governance or a warehouse or reporting data mart, you really have this movement of data from creation all the way through consumption. And the need for data services and information steward and MDG is really to look at each of those sources and those applications and processes and make sure you have the right data at the right time. And what you also want to do, conversely, is you want to be able to block the bad data or turn bad data into right data at each of those entry points. And this is a slide that we like to look at that really covers and encompasses all of the capabilities of the SAP EIM suite, starting with data modeling, which they now have through the SciBase Power Designer to make sure you can model not just your physical, but your logical, conceptual, and your business processes up front. You have data services, which we'll talk about primarily today, for getting the data clean and also for help and keeping it clean. You have information steward. I can make an argument, yes, the information steward there is to help keep it clean. I could see, and I would position information steward also as in front, using it in front of data services for really being able to see the current status of your data, so you can set some baselines and benchmarks for getting that data clean so you can see the trending of that data over time. Then we have MDG, the master data governance. That's for the business processing and maintaining of the master data after you've been able to get it clean using data services. You also have extended capabilities through the content management. You've got archival, et cetera. So if you really look at it, and it is kind of a wheel because it's always an ongoing process. It's not build once and then turn your back and go off and do other things. It really is a life cycle for maintenance. And again, we'll be covering today primarily data services. I encourage you to hit the Utopia website. We've got recorded webinars on these other areas such as information management, data governance, MDG, et cetera. And I believe we have some upcoming webinars. I think the next one coming up is on information steward, so you can get more of a deep dive on that in a future webinar. So now let's kind of take it from all of the solution set as part of the Enterprise Information Management Suite and really look at data services. And I'm going to kind of break this down into the three components, which is parsing, standardizing, cleansing the data, finding hidden relationships and matching and consolidating techniques, and then also looking at how do you go about enhancing that data either through internal or external sources. Again, each of those areas I could probably spend an hour on, so we'll just touch on a few of the highlights. So a few moments on data services, what it is and what it's capable of. Historically, data services might have been pigeonholed as an ETL tool, extract, transform, and load. But it's so much more than just being able to move data from point A to point B. Certainly it has a very rich capabilities for, if you look on the left-hand side, being able to pull data and access data directly from SAP and non-SAP applications, whether it's CRM, ERP, you got non-SAP applications like PeopleSoft, Oracle, Siebel here listed. There are others. It can also go down to the database layer, so you can go and access SciBase, HANA, Oracle, DB2, Teradata data, MS SQL data, Hadoop information, and it can also tie in enterprise data that comes in other formats, flat files, delimited files, XML, HTML, et cetera. So it really allows connectivity to each of those sources, and one of the things I really like about the product is once you've connected to those source systems, when you're using the data services product, all of those source systems really look the same. You remove the technical complexity from the user who's using the product, so that you can look at a complex CRM application in the data or an Oracle database, and it can look as simple or the same as a flat file. And so when you are building and designing these jobs, it really removes that capability or complexity from the user so they can focus on the transformations, the enrichments, and the validations, and not about how you get in and tap into those legacy systems. As you can see here, it is the data services engine. It's high throughput, very scalable engine, but it also comes with some data profiling capabilities, so you can take a look at those legacy systems on the left-hand side, for example, and find out what the true content and structure of that data is. So as you're building your transformations and your validations, you're building it on what the data actually looks like, not what you think it looks like or what is documented that it should look like. You can then build your data cleansing, your enrichment rules, your validation. We're going to talk a little bit about text data processing today for unstructured data. But you bring that into the data services interface and the application, and it really allows you to move that data, transform that data, and then push it into either existing or new target systems. I've just got a couple listed here. You can do a data migration from, say, an Oracle application to SAP ECC. You can build a data warehouse. You can build reporting databases and clean that data and standardize that data and expose it then for better business intelligence reporting. And the advantage is if you do this all on the SAP ecosystem, you get that shared impact and data lineage. So that metadata layer is shared across all those products. But it doesn't mean you can't share metadata from non-SAP products. So you can use integrators to bring in the metadata from all those systems on the left-hand side, integrate them in to the SAP ecosystem as well, so you can really get full impact and lineage analysis from non-SAP sources to SAP sources to the same with targets. And that's a real powerful capability of the solution. So the overall goal, and what I like about this end-to-end, is that putting these capabilities and solutions in allows you to achieve good data, which ultimately leads to good business decisions. And here's a couple screenshots we'll go through of data services. It is a market-leading, one of the market-leading solutions from SAP. It's a single interface to do all of that legacy connections, the data cleansing, the transformations. There are pre-built capabilities with here, but it's also extensible. You can extend it to include any type of logic that you need, and it's highly scalable. So it's very high throughput. You can also run data services in a batch or a bulk volume process. You can also run it on real-time transactional web services. And ideally, if you're setting up a business rule for your organization, you want that business rule to fire out and to be applied regardless if that data is coming in a bulk load or whether it's a real-time transaction. The advantage of data services is you can build your rules as objects that can easily be deployed regardless of how they're deployed batch or real-time. And here's a couple screenshots, again, talking about the standard transformations that come with the product. They're high-powered specialized data quality transformations. You've got standard functions that are provided to aggregate or convert your data. And you can also extend and create your own functions by using scripting, the data services forward generation language capability. So you can encapsulate complex or simple logic and build your own functions. Once you build those functions, they can be leveraged in other projects. So again, it's that object-oriented approach. And in addition to the specialized data cleansing, one of the specialized data cleansing capabilities I wanted to mention today was the global address cleanse. Is an example of where you can take your data, your address-specific data, you can leverage the global address cleanse transformation and address directories and be able to clean, parse, normalize, and enrich your address data. And I'm going to talk a little bit later when I get into the case study how we can do some of that same capabilities on non-name and address data using some of the Utopia MRO catalogs. And if you looked at the screenshots of data services, and if you're unfamiliar with data services, it can be intimidating. It looks like a complex or a technical user interface. And in some cases, you're right. So I wanted to spend a few minutes just talking about the target personas for data services. And we have one of these slides, SAP has one of these slides for every one of their products, so you can see what the different roles are and tasks associated with the different SAP solutions. In this case, data services, we normally look at and kind of break it down into 4 roles. There can be, some of these can be combined, or you can even subdivide them further, but in general, you have about 4 roles. The first role is your source experts. Those are the folks on that previous slide that really understand those legacy systems. They're the line of business experts, if you will, the subject matter experts. And that little dotted line between them and the 3 roles on the right it's not a wall. That's why it's dotted. It's not a blocker. But generally, those experts are not necessarily involved in the data services development. They normally would work with an analyst role who can interpret the simple or complex rules that are required from the source and translate those into more of a technical-oriented rule that can be used by data services, for example. Now, in some projects, those are one and the same. So that's often very common that those 2 roles are the same. But I like to divide them up into 2 roles to really kind of delineate the different functions of each that they're responsible for and the tasks that they're responsible for. So the data analyst translates the requirements into functional requirements, mapping specifications, etc., that often are then handed off or partnered in collaboration with your data services developer. And that is the designer and the actual end user of data services who will translate those functional requirements into what we call job requirements, executables. Whether it's batch or real-time executables, it doesn't matter. This person does that coding. They acquire all that legacy system. They tap into each of those applications, the files, the databases, and they implement and develop the jobs to do the task required of the project. And then normally the data services developer will be supported by a data services manager or administrator. That person or role administers the environment. So they make sure that everybody has the proper roles, that they have the proper access, right? So that you don't want to give them access to systems they shouldn't have access. That is usually controlled by a data services administrator. And that administrator sometimes often takes the development from the developer and they will publish it wherever it needs published. So if, again, if you're doing some web services, the developer will build the logic, test the logic, but often the data service administrator will deploy that logic to all the different systems it needs deployed. So again, those are 4 common roles. Like I said, the far 2 left don't work with data services directly. They work usually in collaboration with the other roles. Okay, so now we've covered a little bit about Utopia. We've covered a high-level overview of the Enterprise Information Management Suite. We've talked a little bit about data services, what it is. I'm going to kind of drill down just another layer and talk about how do you use data services in a couple different scenarios. So one of the strengths of the product, again, is that it can process both structured and unstructured data. Okay, so traditionally everything has been structured, sitting in relational databases. As I've kind of referred to the explosion of unstructured data, especially over the next couple of years. So what we want to be able to do is when you get unstructured data, you want to be able to basically add structure to it. You want to be able to look at that, whether it's a form or a service log or emails. You want to be able to look at that unstructured data, be able to pull out the content that you need for your project so that it becomes structured. Once it's become structured, you can then apply your cleansing and validation and enrichment rules to it as you would with any structured relational database. So let's kind of talk through each of those. And this is one of my favorite slides about data services when it comes to all of the disparate systems and applications that it can connect to. And I won't go through every one of these. You can get a copy of this presentation, but it can have native connectors to all of those database systems, all of the different application systems which we've kind of talked about, CRM, ECC, etc. All the variety of different files and transports from delimited, non-delimited, COBOL, XML files, It can even tap into mainframe connectors, get into vSAM and ISAM files. But that's all of your structured data. So data services can connect to any and all of those. If you don't see your source or target listed here specifically, usually we would look at, is there an ODBC or JDBC connection? Worst case, we would ask for simple flat file exports from those systems. But it's really rare that I've run into a case where we couldn't use data services to connect using one of these methods. And then on the far right, you see the unstructured content. So getting into text files, binary files, documents, PDFs, emails, etc., and being able to pull those in as well, data services has that capability. And so that's really critical. Some of this I've referred to, whether you're managing forms and having forms that are being processed back and forth that don't have or have little or no structure to them, whether you're mining service logs, repair logs, if you're doing MRO type data, if you're getting data moving in and coming into the organization from mobile devices, web devices, browsers, you might be using Twitter and Facebook and using social media sites. Well, that's a source of data as well that you might be interested in pulling into the organization. And then you could also get into monitoring market events, right? Trades or credit lines, some very specialized content that you might be pulling in. But really, all of those sources of system are generally unstructured, but they contain a wealth of information. So you want to be able to bring that into data services so that, again, it can add that structure. And to do that, data services has some capabilities, unique capabilities called text data processing. And then if you really look at that middle image, you've got a variety of, in this case, vehicle information, VIN information, policy, names, dates, financial amounts, sentiment analysis, email addresses, phone numbers. All of this is coming in a unstructured, free-form application feed. And if that application, this data feed comes in this way, you want to be able to crunch that through text data processing to add that structure. So I'm going to kind of start getting you to a little bit of an introduction to a kind of a case study, a use case. In this case, we've got maintenance or repair logs coming in for equipment. That data has a combination of both structured and structured components to it, whether it's purchase order, long text, etc. It could be manufacturer part number information, dates, might be structured. But we want to be able to bring that in and find that hidden value in that text. It's been estimated that some 80% of enterprise asset management information is hidden in that unstructured information. So we're going to use text data processing to then identify the who, what, when, where, etc. We want to be able to pull out your key domains, whether they're assets, systems, materials, again, manufacturers, part numbers. We want to bring that hidden information from the unstructured and build structure to it. And to do that, data services has the text data processing capabilities for doing what they call entity extraction. So there's out-of-the-box entity extractions. You can also extend and build your own entity extractions as well. Ultimate goal is to bring that unstructured data, add some structure to it, so now you can find and apply the data cleansing, the data quality. You can also look for hidden relationships across your data. So I've got one simple slide here that talks about being able to take, in this case, you've got a material coming in from a variety of systems on the left-hand side. That's your source system. You can see, if you kind of visually navigate through those 3 rows of data, they are referring to the same product. There's just a variety of unstructured data formats to it, but you also have some cleansing and non-standard data. You have mixed case scenarios, you've got abbreviations, you've got use of punctuation, pound signs, etc. But by bringing that data into text data processing, you can add that who, what, where, when context. You can then build the cleansing so that you normalize the data, and then you can look and say, okay, now that we've got clean, normalized, and structured data, you can use the data services fuzzy matching capabilities to bring the relationships together. So in this case, that allows us to, if desired, to consolidate those 3 rows, bring the best of the best data from across those 3 rows together into a single consolidated, or what we like to call a golden record. And once you've done that, you've now applied your standards, but now you can say, okay, we can build a history, an ID and a product history, the fact that this is one golden record, but it has a history going back tying into 3 legacy systems, and you can now roll up their information into that consolidated record to build that full, in this case, product or material view. And then when you do your reporting can be done at a master consolidated record level, but you can also go back and tie into those legacy systems because you know what the links are. Okay, so that's a real high-level example of how you can take unstructured data, bring it in, cleanse, parse, normalize, and standardize that data, and then use the fuzzy matching to consolidate that information. And that's all done using the Data Services platform. And so I want to take and kind of extend that. In an earlier slide, I introduced you to the concept of the global address cleanse. Again, that's a capability of Data Services. The transform is enabled in the install. You can license the global address directories depending upon what countries you need to support. And that will do kind of what I just showed you with the unstructured data. It's going to enable you to validate, parse, normalize that address data, as well as we can also use the cleansing packages to do the name data. But really it's companies like Utopia that comes in and allows you to enhance your MRO or your material or equipment data much like you would with the name and address data. So I've got a couple slides in here that really talk about the use case of, in this case, taking a unstructured MRO PO with some associated information, purchase order coming in. We're going to apply text data processing in the middle. We're going to be able to parse out that information to add the structure to it. And we're doing all of this and normalizing this data using Data Services. And as you can see, we've been able on the left-hand side be able to take that raw information, and we've been able to extract it out, the noun modifier, and any associated attributes that came from the input. We can then analyze that output and determine what attributes are available from the source, but really what's important is what attributes may be missing from that source system. So you may want to do some enrichment of this data to add in those missing data or to apply standards across the board for your attributes. So Utopia has a very unique MRO content library. It's got over 4,000 classes of material, over a million actively managed material rows. And so what we could do in that last scenario is we can take that unstructured data. Now that we have it structured, we know what the attributes are. We can compare that data against our MRO catalog. And if that material is in our catalog, we can append additional enriched elements to that data that maybe didn't exist on that original source. We also have a service that if there are still attributes that are missing that you wish to add to the data, we can reference third-party or industry databases. So we can go out to manufacturer catalogs, and we can enrich the data from those sources if we don't have the content already in our MRO catalog. So that's a very similar process than if you were to send out your name and address data to a Equifax or a Dun & Bradstreet where they would append demographic, psychographic information. We're doing that same type of processing in this case for your material, your MRO or equipment data as well. So again, that allows you to bring both internal and external systems in to enrich your data, to take it beyond that structured, unstructured data from the source system. You can now leverage this data in updating your legacy system or creating a new target system that you can do a variety of features with. You can, again, tie in the SAP Business Intelligence products for doing reporting. You can build a warehouse. You can feed the data into an MDM. And now that you've achieved that information, you can really layer in your data governance around that clean, normalized, and enriched data. And that's really where you get that business value. And in this case, it really all started from Data Services. So with that, I will pass it back to Lisa, see if we have any questions that I can answer. I think we're right on about 30 minutes, so I came in right about time. And I appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Chuck. We do have a question that is coming in right now. Since SAP acquired Sybase and including some of that technology now in EIM, how integrated are these products?
Yeah, that is a good question. I think on one of the earlier slides, I had that in that life cycle wheel of all the EIM solutions. Really was talking about Power Designer. There's also Power Builder. You've got the Sybase databases. They are definitely integrated. They're getting more tightly integrated over time. I'd have to answer that on a product-by-product basis, but I think what you're looking at is really SAP embracing the older Sybase technology, bringing it in, integrating it, and continuing to enhance and enrich those individual products as well. So I know we've been, Utopia, we've been using a lot of the Power Designer product to do the modeling and the ERD modeling, and then integrating that product set and the output and the content with data services. So we've got a variety of, for example, data migration content now where you can model in Power Designer, and then you can actually build your mappings directly in Power Designer and then share that extraction logic right inside of data services. So definitely integrated, and I think SAP is going to continue that integration level moving forward. So that's a good question.
Okay, and another question just came in. How does Data Services support data lineage? Can you show it in a demo?
Well, we definitely can. I didn't have any of, that's a great question. I didn't have any of those slides in our live demos. We definitely show that. In fact, we have, we've got the demonstrations where we've actually done what I just talked about. We've used Power Designer to model a source application. We've been able to extract that data out using data services. Between that integration, we load that data through the SAP Best Practices for Data Migration templates, which are the ETL jobs, and we've used iDocs, intermediate documents, to load data in ECC, and then we've reported off that data using the BI products. So we could definitely, if you'd like to schedule a private session or look at one of our other webinars, you can see that lineage going from all the way from the reports and the BI all the way back through the ETL, through the ECC, through the ETL, through data services, through Information Steward, and through Power Designer. And you can see that lineage all the way across the board. It's pretty impressive, so we can definitely show that.
Okay, another question. You didn't speak much about HANA. How does that fit into all of this?
Yeah, HANA fits, is clearly very important to SAP, and you're starting to see the integration of HANA with the legacy applications. You're seeing data services is both not only an engine. Data services is one of the transport capabilities between your legacy systems and moving data into HANA. It's one of the best practice approaches. You're starting to see data services being built on top of HANA. So definitely we have some other webinars, very specialized webinars that focus on that topic, which is kind of why I dropped it on today's. But you're seeing the HANA impact across all SAP products, and clearly that's their roadmap to see tighter and tighter integration. And like I said, I really do see products like data services being built on top of HANA as well. I think that's a direction SAP is definitely going to take the product set. So that's really exciting. So definitely would point you to a different webinar for more capabilities on HANA and how it goes across all these enterprise information management solutions.
All right, another question. Can you tell me more about SAP Master Data Governance Solution?
Again, another really good question, simply because there's so much content that I could fit into one presentation. So definitely Master Data Governance in MDG. We've been doing this for a number of years, not just implementing the MDG technology, but also building unique Utopia content on top of the MDG, so basically extending the domains of which MDG can leverage. So again, not to put it off, we can definitely do that. I would recommend that that's a specialized, either a webinar, a past one, or a future one. We will go into much more detail on the MDG integration. But that's a big play for Utopia and for SAP, so that's definitely a capability. It's one of our pillars.
Okay, well that looks like that is one of our last questions that we have. I do want to thank everyone for coming today, and I do want to give a special thanks to our host and speaker, Chuck Chardon, for today's webinar session, Unlock and Govern the Business Value of Your Company with SAP Data Services. We ask to have you fill out the survey at the end of the webinar. If you want to learn more about Utopia Global, please visit our website at www.utopiainc.com. Our contact information is up on the screen. However, all questions can be directed to Utopia at 847-388-3600 or via our website or email at info@utopiainc.com. We also have a contact us portion of our website if you choose to go that route as well. We do ask that you join us July 16th for our next webinar, Give Business Users Power Over Their Data with SAP Information Steward, with our speaker, Jeff Knotts, who is our Director of Solutions Consulting. Again, feel free to reach out to us with any suggestions for future topics. This webinar was recorded and will be available shortly, and we look forward to you joining us for our next webinar. Thank you and have a great day.